Welcome back. You are watching Wake Up Perth. Now, tax time is upon us, or has just kind of lapsed into the new financial year, and I'm sure you're being influxed with a number of statements and financial things here and there. Most of the time you either rip it up or you file it away and don't worry about it. But Matt Hern from Finge is in today to tell us exactly what we should do to help us out in the future. Matt, welcome.
Thank you very much, Imelda. Good morning. I'm freezing.
It is
but
very,
we'll push through.
We shall. We'll just soldier on, won't we?
Yeah.
Now, obviously it is the new financial year. Do we just forget about those statements, or what do we do with them?
No, it's actually a fantastic time of year to take stock and review your situation, draw a line in the sand and see how you're going and set some plans for the coming financial year, rather than leaving it to, say, May or June of this year again and a big rush. Take some stock now and start planning. That's
I've gotten the bank statements that have come in. I've gotten all the other bits and bobs of everything else, the tax deductions and things like that. Now that I've got that together, what do I do? What's the next step that I should follow through?
The first step, that's a really great step to take, is I say create what's called a balance sheet and a cash flow statement. Now, a balance sheet is the assets, the things that you own, and the debts or liabilities put onto the one statement and put into one spot to see how much you owe and how much you own. The cash flow statement is really how much have I earned this year, what income have I got from all different sources, and what have I paid out, to see how much you've got as a surplus at the end of the year. So the balance sheet, the key reason you do that is because it actually shows you whether you're in a positive or negative position, both from if you owe more than you own, which is not a really good situation to be in, but more importantly, what is your net wealth? And the difference between your net assets and your net wealth is the net wealth is how much investment assets you've got, because that determines whether you can retire or not. It's a measure of your financial independence, which is whether you can retire or not. So that's the power of the balance sheet. So
does that include combining the superannuation on top of that?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, because your net investment assets is superannuation and non-superannuation. Your total retirement asset pool is not just superannuation, even though many people think it is just superannuation. It's everything investment-wise that you own. It doesn't include lifestyle assets, which is the common thing. People think, hey, I've got $500,000 worth of equity in my home. Good, well, you're not going to sell off a bedroom to fund your retirement expenses. So that doesn't really count in your net wealth. Yeah. Definitely.
So in terms of, okay, you've done this all, you've gotten it all together, you've looked at whether you're running at a loss or a gain compared to the year before. Is it wise to compare it to what happened the year before?
Absolutely. A comparing process is probably one of the more powerful tools that you can do, because it gives you an idea of the progress you're making. If you're in a same position or only slightly ahead to where you were last year, it perhaps gives you an indication that, wow, if I extrapolate that to the rest of my years, how far ahead am I going to get? Am I really ever going to be able to quit this job and ever live the lifestyle of my dreams? So it's a fantastic idea to keep the information every year and compare it to the year that you did before.
Okay, when you're doing your balance statement and your cash flow statement, I just want to take it back there for a little bit. When you do your shopping and your groceries and that, is it wise to include that in, or do you just take it off the bank statements, what you've got on that actual statement?
Well, if you wanted to get to a nitty-gritty detail, that would be a fantastic step, and I would say that's the following step as part of the planning. But really at this stage, you can make it really quick and simple. If you add up all your credit card bills for 12 months, you've got a pretty good idea of what you spent. And really at this stage, what we want to do is almost like bucket chemistry. Let's just get a big picture idea of where we're at. And adding up your credit card bills is a good indicator. Adding up all of the major bills that you've got for your house, your water, your gas and electricity is a good indicator as well of where the money's gone. So yeah, at this big picture stage, it's great to just pull it off your bank statement. What was the bank statement 12 months ago compared to now? Is it moved? That gives you an indication of whether you've saved or not.
Are you more of a shopper than you were before?
Yeah.
Can you see, in terms of, I mean, you're always getting trends and reports coming out saying that people are consuming a lot more than they used to in terms of going to retail therapy. Does that actually reflect on your statements if you do it in this particular way? Can you see if you're more of a shopper this year than you were last year?
Yeah, absolutely it will, because certainly like the example I gave before, if your bank statement hasn't moved very much, yet you've earned $100,000 this year and you're wondering where it's gone, yeah, that's a pretty good indication that you might be having more on the discretionary spending side of things, and maybe that discretionary area is where you can rein in if you want to achieve your goals. Really, this is a drawing a line in the sand to give you information. What you do with that information depends upon your goals. If you've got lofty lifestyle goals in the future, it might be some information that tells you might not be on the track, but it might also tell you that you are on track. So it just depends where you're at.
Very true. Is there anything else that you can do with the superannuation and the investment statements that you sent?
Yeah, definitely. This time of year, we'll all be sent our superannuation investment statements. Now, in the past year, we've had booming share markets, so many people will see a positive number, somewhere between, say, 10 and 20%. Now, it's quite common at the old barbecue conversation to say, hey, I got 15%, that's fantastic. What about if the share market did 20%? 15% wasn't good at all. So the thing that you should do is take whatever return you got, be it positive or negative, and see how it compared to the average of every other investment that's similar to yours. So that's what I call a process of benchmarking, to see if you're any good. So it's a very good idea to, whatever you're doing, to benchmark it against what it should be doing and the goal to which you want to go to.
Just looking at setting your goals. At the start you mentioned reviewing and setting the goals. Now, how do we use that information then to set those particular goals?
Okay, there's two particular ways. The one way is to start dreaming. What lifestyle would you really like to have? And then quantify that and bring it back to where you are now to see how much I need to be saving every year to do that. So once you've done that big picture goal setting process, the dreaming, the lifestyle dream, then the thing you do, you use this information to say, well, how does that compare to this dream of mine? Is it where I need to be? As a 31-year-old bloke and wants to retire in 20 years' time, am I anywhere near on track? That's how you use that information. And if you're not, then you can say, well, okay, this year I spent 30% of my income on discretionary, maybe, so let's say 30 grand for round numbers. Maybe I need to pull that back to 20 grand next year. So that's how you use the information to say, well, I spent 30, need to cut it down by 10,000 and invest 10,000.
So how does someone, in terms of looking at realistic types of figures and goals to set, I mean, obviously I can't sit here now and go, hey, I want to be, you know, making millions of dollars because I want to be like a Hollywood starlet, which I don't, but, you know, just as an example. Does it pay to be realistic about the goals that you set in terms of how you've gone this year?
Yes. It's always great to be realistic, but I also love the idea of dreaming. Because I just think, let's have a dream of what it is 30 years away and not put it aside and say it's not realistic. Let's work out how to make it happen. So I think you need two, really. I think you need the dream, the one that you really want to work towards, and then there's the one that you're willing to make, because sometimes achieving the dreams requires some compromise. So I think you need a balance of the two. Look at the dream and then look at the compromise position of how much of today are you really willing to sacrifice for tomorrow. Definitely. I think you need to do a sacrifice, but I think you need a balance between the two.
So if there's viewers that are out there at the moment and they're thinking, okay, you know what, this is actually really good advice, I want to take it, how can they find out more in terms of getting templates maybe for the balance sheets and flow statements?
Yeah, great question. On my website, I've put some templates for the balance sheet and cash flow, plus links to some historical returns so that you can benchmark it. That's findra.com.au/Wake Up Perth, all as one word, and you'll be able to download those templates and get the links to the benchmark returns.
Fantastic, Matt. Thank you very much for coming in today.
My pleasure, Demel.